Hello everybody, this is Iconic Repaints, back with a new video finally, and today I'm looking at the X Plus Yuji Sakai 30 centimeters Godzilla 1991 from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, but with a twist. This is one that I actually repainted head to toe, complete overhaul. So this will serve as part figure review, since I'm not going to have one for the X Plus figure line, but also a feature on the repaint. So this figure originally came out in 2015. Right off the bat, it was one of the most popular X Plus figures in the series, mostly because it was probably hands down the best sculpt at the time. And that is because it was originally a resin model kit from Yuji Sakai, and resin is usually a lot more detailed, and they were able to take that resin mold and transfer it into vinyl. And even though it doesn't have as much detail as the resin, it still packs a lot of texture compared to the other standard vinyl that X Plus had going on at the time. Since 2015, X Plus has definitely kind of like stepped up in their own original kits and figures, but yeah, this guy is still probably top 5, maybe top 10 as far as just, mean looking, detail oriented sculpts. And he's still really popular, mostly because he's got the closed mouth. He's based on one of the most popular suits in the entire series, where he's less kind of flabby and chunky looking. He's a little more streamlined, aggressive, kind of more predatory in his stance. Very dynamic, kind of lines going on. The tail that's like got the nice little curve to it. It's really a visually appealing figure all the way around. And for comparing it to suit accuracy, which is probably the first thing you want to do when reviewing these figures, it really is like a solid A+ effort. Like, really, I can't knock it at all for anything. The paint job was really accurate to the suit. It was just more of a bland charcoal gray with the dull gray spines, which is what the figure had, and typical 90's Godzilla design and color palette. So, as you could probably figure out, I mean, you start collecting a bunch of these Godzillas and they all really start looking the same. And I realized that, as cool as I had this figure pretty much at launch, and you start to realize that as you collect more and more, as a fan, you notice subtle differences between a lot of suits, but on a shelf, they really start to blend in. And this guy particularly, despite having such a great sculpt, there's always something that, unless you had him out in daytime or under some lighting, he kind of always gets lost. Like, in my collection, he always definitely got pushed back towards the shelf, because he really, the paint job kind of made him look a little bland compared to the more vibrant and distinct looking figures that I was starting to collect. And it even came to the point where I was wondering if I should sell him, but I really couldn't bring myself to do it. I liked him too much, and so I had to figure something out. So it took years, but eventually I kind of got brave enough to decide that I wanted to try to modify him myself using just paint. And the first thing I wanted to do was just, maybe I figured if I just gave him like the charged up atomic blue spines, that would be enough to make him pop in the collection on the shelf. And I did the spines. It came out pretty cool. I have pictures for that, and for a little bit that was enough. I mean, I was a little high on him again after doing the spines, but then a few weeks went by, maybe a couple months, and I was like, you know what, the body itself, it still looks kind of really dull to me. It's just not enough going on. And I started off with like small steps. So I did a dry brush, and again, I liked it at first under daylight and good light. You could see it. It was subtle enough it didn't really ruin the figure at all, but it was just still not quite doing it for me. And after that, I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna do anything, I'm gonna do something big. And I really figured that he was the best candidate to paint on. I mean, because the sculpt was top notch. I love the sculpt. I didn't want to hide the sculpt. I wanted to bring it out even more. The inspiration behind what I did here was growing up in the 90s, being a Godzilla fan. I distinctly remember VHS tapes. They all had like this cool cover art, and they always kind of portrayed Godzilla as like, you know, really a solid color green with like the beige or tan spines going down the back, and it was a really cool look because it was on many of the VHS tapes. I think it was even on like the 90s comic book run from Dark Horse. So it was a popular unorthodox design that a lot of us who grew up in the 90s appreciated, you know, kind of had love for. It was the first thing that we saw a lot of times before we put the movie in, or before we opened up the comic book. And you don't really see any figures or collectibles really with that kind of you know, formula. So I wanted to go that route, but I was still hesitant to. I was still scared. I mean, this is not a cheap figure. It's highly desired. It's, you know, gone up in value, and you know, I mean, for what I wanted to do in my head, it just left a lot of room to, you know, for mistakes or errors. So I started off really light. I started off with like a really pale yellow green, and I just continuously worked my way darker and darker and darker until I was really happy with the color palette. Finally landed on something that I liked, and because it was layers, there's different shades and pops of green that kind of show through here and there, which I think really adds to the depth and the dimension of them. Also, I kind of use like a black wash, kind of like a highlighter to you know, darken certain areas but amplify the areas that I wanted to, like, the green to really bounce off. So like his face and his chest, his thighs are all really green, and I think the black works well with the beige going down the back as well. I made the eyes a ghostly white, which I think it really bounces off, you know, the two colors. So happy with that overall. And all things considered, this probably is one of my favorite customs that I've done. It's unique. I mean, now he's got no problem popping out on a shelf at all. He stands out really well. And yeah, you know, just wanted to do something that was really dynamic. And I like the fact that the color, you know, it's almost like cell shaded in a way. It looks like the colors are comic based or you know, animated based. It doesn't look necessarily realistic in the way I did the colors. I mean, it's not really a smooth transition between like the black and the green, but you know, it really pops, and that's what I was going for. So going down the tail too, like it's you know, really separate between the two colors, the black on the bottom of the tail and the green on the top. But anyway, yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. And let me know what you guys think, or if you want to, you know, follow more like this, just like and subscribe. And yeah, so this is the Yuji Sakai Godzilla 1991 30 centimeters with the iconic repaints twist. All right, thank you all for watching. Peace.